The following may contain language that is not suitable for all audiences.
It's time for the Low Fat Podcast. That's a pretty weak bell.
Yeah.
That's a pretty weak ring there, buddy.
Should I do it again?
No. So, I wanted to kind of talk about your whole philosophy of Harry Potter thing, but the part where you consider something justice.
Okay.
Because, do you remember what you said?
Not exactly.
You said you start off with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mess up a whole bunch of shit up.
Right.
And then it all works out.
Right.
And that's justice, is what you said.
Why did I said it could be looked at as justice. Did I actually say it's justice?
As I recall.
I mean, it could be looked at as justice because it's the idea that if you're doing good, then things are going to work out.
But you didn't say that they were doing good. You said that
they're trying to do good.
Okay, so that's the big difference, isn't it?
Doing good and trying to do good?
Yeah, it's the difference between good intentions and actually doing good. I don't think those two are. I don't think in the logic puzzle those don't follow each other.
Good intentions and doing good?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because surely if you have good intentions, then you're trying to do good.
Well, let's take an episode from current events, right?
Okay.
So I would imagine that all these people saying you need to separate and not come into contact with each other. Let's say that that's coming from a position of good intention.
Okay.
The result of that is not good.
Oh, people separating from each other.
Yeah. All these lockdowns and stuff, that is...
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of really bad results happening.
In fact, I think there are some studies, or at least one study, out of England, I believe, that's said, and I got the highlights off of this study, so I don't even know if that's what it's actually saying, but the Reader's Digest version that I got was that a study was done saying that these lockdowns, basically for every life saved, 3 or 4 are lost.
Really?
Up to 3 or 4. At least 1 to 1.
Huh. And yet nobody's really... I mean, there's been a little bit of reporting about depression and stuff like that, but...
Well, it also depends on the message you want to send. You don't want to say your action caused more harm than good.
No.
That's just the way we are. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say if I did something like I did X to do good, and it turns out that some good happened, but the cost of that good was potentially higher. I'm not going to sit there and go, well, okay, so for every person I saved, 4 people died. That's my bad.
You just won't acknowledge the bad.
Well, I think that depends. I think that depends on the person, it depends on the person, but it also depends on the moral philosophy, and I think your sex or gender, which however, what's the word I'm looking for? However woke you want to be.
Wait, you think that your sex affects your moral philosophy?
To a certain extent.
Huh.
Your goals, it definitely affects your goals. I was reading another article that said the result of the current backlash among a lot of folks on the way academia is really basically because of gender.
Wait. You have to run that by me again.
Okay, so a lot of people are talking about how the universities have turned into these weird inclusionary, safe space,
right,
weird stuff, right?
Yeah, very aware of all that.
That's because there's a lot of women there, and the goal of most women is to be safe, right?
Okay, yeah, well that makes sense.
And I don't know what it's like for the people coming up today, but when I grew up, the time I grew up, the geographic location I grew up, and the culture that I grew up in, which is kind of tied with the geographic location a little bit. But I grew up learning and kind of being it drilled into me up until young adulthood, when it really got drilled into me, that the purpose of a man was to provide the safety, not seek it.
That totally makes sense, but I don't know if it's new feminism or it's just feminist philosophy.
It's not. I'm going to disagree with you on the new philosophy and feminist philosophy because
Well, you think it's different?
I do, because the wave of feminism that supposedly, the way that's been distilled now is that we're basically interchangeable.
Men.
And women. You know, the big gripe among the right wing, I don't know if you want to call them right wing or conservative or what, but the big gripe about from a lot of people is that feminism, the way it comes out now, is basically geared towards saying a woman should be like a man.
Right.
And to do that, they don't attack they don't go onto the philosophy, right?
Right.
My philosophy as a man is you are the one that provides the safety.
But wait, I think the original feminist philosophy was I am woman, here we were. It was all about being a woman.
60s, 70s,
Yeah,
feminists?
yeah.
Well, yeah, so they're saying I'm just as good as a man.
Okay,
I'm
so
the
you're saying the
same.
philosophy hasn't changed.
I'm the same as a man.
Right.
And my point is, yes, a woman is just as good as a man, but we're different.
Right.
You don't increase your whatever, in my book, by becoming just like a man.
Right.
That's like fighting evil by becoming evil.
Right. Well, women and men are different.
No doubt. But
And look, if you sit there and said to a woman, you're just like a man, she would say, no, I'm not. Wouldn't she?
I don't know.
Does it depend on the characteristic that you're talking about?
I don't know, but it depends on characteristic, right? Because remember, we've had conversations with women when we say, you know, you can't do it all, and they immediately get mad by saying, okay, so what you're saying is that you can. I'm like, I didn't say that,
Yeah.
and that's not even the connotation of you can't do it all.
Nobody can do it all.
Well, that's the point. But you know, a lot of women starting from the 60s, I suppose, and into our lives and in our adulthood, this whole thing was a woman should be able to fuck around like any dude, and I don't even think that is a manly trait either.
The fucking around thing.
Yeah, that's just juvenile.
Right.
I don't know of any male, well-adjusted male, who sits there and thinks, oh, you know, going out and having sex with all these women is just like the end-all be-all. I'm just, like I've said before, you're basically using another body as a masturbatory device.
Well, speaking of I think there's probably been studies done that show that people that do that, or men, I don't know about women, but probably pretty, probably becomes pretty empty pretty quickly, right?
If you're a reasonable person, male or female,
Right.
screwing around is empty. It's just that, you know, men are more willing to do that because they don't have to carry the consequences of that.
Literally.
Exactly, for 9 months, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember what 80s movie it was, like, you know, some dude's telling his girlfriend, like, hey, let's play Russian roulette because he didn't want to wear a condom.
Uh-huh.
And she's all like, oh yeah, and guess who gets to carry the bullet around for 9 months?
Right. That's so true.
So that simple fact kind of makes it easier for guys to be really immature about that, less choosy.
But this is where I know we're totally getting off track here, but it's good.
We would be if there was a track.
Right. But I get really pissed off when a woman sits there and equates that man with all men. You know, the immature man with all men. You know, like men are bullies, like men aren't going to be, like, take care of their responsibilities if I get pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And that's often the case, that all men get painted with one brush. And I've had this debate with some female friends of mine where I've said, I don't appreciate the fact that you're putting me in the same camp as these other men. And then invariably the response at that point is, I'm not.
What do you mean?
I'm not putting you in the same camp as all those other men.
You just said men are blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So I'm like, whoa.
So
What
I'm
the
not.
fuck?
So
Which
you're
was
not a
it?
man? So she doesn't see you. So this particular woman did not see you as a man.
Oh, I don't know.
That's great. Thanks.
Um,
There's men, then there's you, chopped liver over there, right?
but it's a little disingenuous to sit there and make a broad brush statement and then to your male friend, and then sit there and say, I'm not putting you in that same camp. I don't think she's saying I'm a woman. I just think she's not thinking, maybe, when she says stuff.
Yeah, well, I suppose you could throw a hand grenade in there and say, if someone ever says that to you again, you'd be like, yeah, but that's because women are whores. And if she's all like, oh, did you just call me a whore? It's like, no, you set the parameters.
I'm not talking about you.
Right, you set the parameters. Basically, the person I'm talking to is not in the set.
But that's always the response from someone who makes a broad brush statement, and then when you sit there and say I find that offensive, they oh well, I'm not talking about you. So I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird. But going back to the whole justice thing,
Yeah.
Do you believe that the good intentions will equal a just result? I mean, because
I guess I do really put a lot of what is it?
wait.
I put a lot of weight on intentions. I do.
Well, that's kind of the way society is now.
So I'm like, well, if I have a good intention, then maybe things will work out okay, because I'm trying to do good.
Yeah, there is that. I can understand that, but it's just.
I mean, that's a moral. You were talking about moral philosophy. If you come to something from a moral perspective, right, then shouldn't things work out?
I don't know that that's a moral question.
What do you mean? Dave's just turning down the fan, people, in case you're wondering.
Well, the whole idea that if you have a certain idea or if you come from a certain place, then, that kind of... See, the problem I have with good intentions is that for, I don't know how many, but it seems like a great number of people, that intention pretty much is used as an excuse for everything, right? If you have good intentions, then no matter what you do, it should be good because you have good intentions.
Yeah. Which is kind of that is my perspective. I think it is.
That kind of rubs me, that gives me some mental pause.
Yeah. Because there's no consequences.
Well, even if there is, I mean, it's that.
Well, no.
It's that whole thing, that whole moral dilemma question about, there's a train or a trolley car going down that's out of control, right? And
is this the?
Well, it depends. I mean, one is what if there's a person right beside you that is gargantuanly big,
the fat man on the bridge,
right? And even it's either that one or the switch, the track switch. Where there's a track going out of control, there's 6 people in the car, and if you throw the handle, it will switch the track so that the car will go into a different track, and not crash, but it will kill one person,
right,
standing on the track.
Okay, and
so or the fat guy, on top of the bridge that falls over,
right,
and is able to stop it, right. So many people have no qualms about not being the one actively pushing. No,
they do have qualms.
Yes.
They don't want to push the fat guy.
Well, to them that seems kind of wrong. But if the fat guy just happened to fall over and stop it, while there's a small tragedy there, it ends up being better because more people survive.
Right.
And that's another thing.
So what about tossing the lever? Isn't that essentially the same thing, though?
Yes.
But if you're tossing a lever, it's probably easier than pushing the person, right?
I don't know. I mean, there should be no distinction.
But I bet you there is.
A lot of the times the distinction is if I'm not doing anything. Maybe there is. Maybe some people believe that there's a distinction between pushing the fat man over the bridge or pushing the lever because...
It's probably easier to push the lever.
I suppose.
I would think.
But it's the same.
Yeah, it is the same.
And I suppose we can leave it with this one statement. Everybody's all for the maximum good for the maximum number of people unless they're the ones that has to sacrifice.